I was scared shitless then because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get shut down. I'm going to get arrested. I'm going to get fined, you know. But it was part of the mythological story of this. Because of the riot, the police came. Because the police were there, the newspapers and all the news channels came.
Picked it up.
So it was on the nightly news. It was then on the front page of the New York Post the next day. And that's what really like mythologized this whole drop. So now like a mint condition pair of this goes for like 80 to 100,000 US dollars.
Watching and listening to In Proximity. I'm Paula Mardo, and today we're doing something a little different. When we first started the new season, we said we would talk to filmmakers, artists, creatives, entrepreneurs, and people changing the game in art forms and mediums beyond film and TV. Today is one of those episodes. We're talking about sneakers. Jeff Staple is a designer, brand strategist, and founder of the streetwear brand Staple, which he founded in 1997 after dropping out of college, specifically journalism school, then design school. If you wear sneakers in your everyday life or for style points, or if you purchased a collab from your favorite brand, you kind of have Jeff and the early pioneers of streetwear to thank for that. One of Jeff's earliest collabs was with an artist named Yasiin Bey, also known as Mos Def, and he's since collabed with giant brands like Nike, Adidas, Puma, and so forth. He's perhaps best known for designing the iconic 2005 Nike Pigeon dunk, which when it was released caused a literal riot in the streets of New York City. Look it up, it's crazy. That sneaker was probably going for about $150 back then. Today, it can go for as much as $80,000 to $150,000 or more. So Jeff's pretty much a legend in the game. He's even hosted a podcast about it, The Business of Hype with Hypebeast, and he's written a book, Not Just Sneakers, part memoir, part archive of his many creative collaborations and designs. On this episode, Jeff will talk about how a genuine love for brand design and sneakers at a very young age led to a whole career that mixes art and business and even storytelling. And he'll share his tips for dealing with hustle culture and building a business, all while staying as close to the creative as possible. Here's my conversation with Jeff Staple. Jeff Staple.
Hello.
Welcome to In Proximity.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here in this office and on this park of Disney Studios. It's amazing.
Yes, thank you. I mean, before we were talking, I said in your lovely book, which we'll get to, someone is quoted in your book as saying you did for the pigeon what Walt Disney did for the rat.
Exactly.
Do you still agree with that?
I do. It's one of the biggest honors because when I was growing up, like Walt Disney, Epcot Center and Disney World meant so much to me. Like I was a major fiend for everything Disney. So to create something that generally people don't like to become something that people are beloved by is an honor.
Yeah, you have this book. It's called Not Just Sneakers. And what I really love about it is it tells your story, your career story, your brand story, but it also has these great images, like the designs you've created, but also your drawings from like really, really early age.
Yeah.
And I noticed like you would draw a bunch of things, brands. There's a perfect lemonade stand. You had the measurements down.
I know.
How old were you when you did that?
Like 8.
Yeah, so you were sketching a lemonade stand with measurements at 8 years old. Just various plans for like a resort.
Yes.
You really are Walt Disney, actually, now that I think about it. What made you do that?
Maybe like the modern day version of that is world building, right? Like what does the world physically look like? Who are the characters in it? And what are they wearing? And what do they look like? So that's all sort of world building. And obviously I didn't know that was the term growing up. I think for me, probably one of the biggest points of inspirations were comics / animation. And then second was sports, right? And sports mostly because you had these characters that were, playing these incredible roles, but based on their skills, like pure skill set. And then I loved the artistic side of animation and comic books, and also, of course, the storytelling and how, as any Marvel fiend will know, like you have characters that have really great strengths, but also weaknesses. And I really loved that, like yin and yang, like not everybody's perfect. And this guy needs this girl for them to create this team together, So I don't know. It's just the melting pot of, I think, all of those things, you know, like art, animation, storytelling, skill, sports, determination, training, all of that just came together into this like world building that you were talking about.
I find that interesting because when I was growing up, I read comics, but mine were a little different than yours. I think X-Men was a little too much for me, but I did like them. I really liked Archie comics, actually.
Cute, yeah.
I know. And so I would draw like people.
Uh-huh.
But you drew like, there's a page in here where you had like the Nike logo, and then you like wrote out like Air Max, like Air Jordan. Like you
so
just
weird, right?
Yeah, why brands?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. This is before blogs and, you know, like fashion culture or hype culture, right? This, I'm just to date it, I'm talking like this is 1980, 81, 82. And here I am drawing logos and brands and like Jumpman and stuff, you know? And even just me wearing more than one pair of shoes to school was actually a point of ridicule, if you can imagine this. Like, because I wore different sneakers every day, kids were making fun of me for it.
You're like the weird kid.
Yeah. Isn't that like, I know it's so crazy compared to today, but they're like, oh, you another pair of shoes, you loser. You know, like.
Wait, why? Like,
I don't know. I used to just dress differently. And I would, one time I even got into like a physical altercation over like the way I dressed from a bully. You know, I think in where I grew up in the middle of New Jersey and in the sort of 70s and 80s, and also being like a child of immigrant family, I think like assimilation and blending in was the key to survival. And if you did anything that was like slightly unique, or God forbid you had some sort of your own flavor attached to it, you were sticking your thumb out and people want to hammer that thumb down, you know?
Right.
So I think that's really where it came from. So the idea that I was obsessed with these brands, I guess the term is now brand whore, but I was like, I was really into brands and labels for some reason, you know?
I mean, you collected sneakers starting at age 6, I think?
Yeah.
So you like brands?
Sixth grade.
Sixth grade.
Yeah,
okay,
sixth
I was
grade,
like, 6-year-old. Sixth grade. I mean, that's still quite young. But what was it about sneakers specifically then that got you interested and got you wearing different kinds of shoes, even though all the other kids were wearing the same, I don't know, Keds or something?
Yeah. I mean, sneakers back in that day were a sporting goods equipment, right? Like a baseball glove or a baseball bat. You go to your sporting goods store, you buy your tennis racket, tennis balls, and a pair of sneakers. It was that category, not fashion at all, right? And for some reason, I saw it as like more of a design thing. Like I looked at a shoe and I was like, somebody made decisions on all of this stuff, you know? And when I was watching these athletes do what they were doing, obviously I couldn't dunk from the free throw line or win a US Open. And I was pretty athletic. Like I like playing sports, but so I was looking at these gladiators and I was just like, the only thing that I can do that's similar to what they have is rock the shoes that they are having on their feet. And so that's why I was super into it.
Is this before Air Jordan or after?
It's like the third year. Like I witnessed the birth of Air Jordan. 1985, for those who don't know, was the Air Jordan 1. And I was into it then. But even before that, you had John McEnroe or Bo Jackson or Andre Agassi. And then, of course, when a tennis player named Michael Chang came on the scene, who was like the first Asian American tennis athlete pro, and he beat Yvonne Lendl at the French Open with a tore hamstring. Like, just watching that, similar to me watching Shohei Ohtani now, there's a certain extra level of like pride in seeing that, and seeing Derek Jeter, A-Rod, and all these people talk about, yes, Ohtani, but also an Asian person in this light is really like something special. So I think, you know, I'll never forget that Michael Chang wore the Reebok pumps on his foot, and those Reebok pumps had a fuzzy tennis ball on the pump, and people who know will know what I'm talking about. But like all those details I remember because they're so like etched in my brain, those memories, you know.
It's interesting you bring up famous Asians at the time in the 80s. So Connie Chung was a famous Asian that your parents actually thought was really successful, right?
Yeah.
And talk about like how you got into journalism because of Connie Chung.
Totally. It's Connie Chung is the reason why I am not an accountant or like a doctor.
Okay.
Is because Connie showed my parents that you could do something in America as an Asian and not be in that typical profession of doctor, lawyer, or accountant, right?
Because she was a journalist on television and really popular. Like the 80s was sort of like her heyday.
Yeah. She was an on-camera personality, and she was smart without doing an examination on a body or like or math. Like you could tell she was smart, but she was like a wordsmith, And so when it was time for me to go to college, and at first I went to New York University, I was like, didn't want to do math, didn't want to do science, didn't want to do bio. So I was like, journalism. And it was Connie Chung that my parents were like, okay, journalism works. That's a
success.
Yeah, that's a success if you could do this, right? And I liked writing, but I liked creative writing. I really had no desire to really be like a journalist or a reporter or anything like that. But I thought it was a good sort of entree in. And that's what got me into NYU, and I did 2 years there before I dropped out. But so definitely shout out Connie Chung.
Shout out. So you went from NYU to Parsons, School of Design. That's when you were like, okay, maybe it's more design, which was what you were into.
Yeah.
But then you started selling T-shirts. What did your parents think when you left school to sell T-shirts?
Well, the whole time I was selling T-shirts, my parents didn't know. I was like almost like a drug dealer, but selling shirts and shirts. Slanging shirts on the corner.
Okay.
Yeah, I was at Parsons, and even to be honest, Parsons didn't even let me silkscreen on T-shirts.
Yeah, can you talk about that? Because I find this, because nowadays like T-shirts brands, like it's so common, and people can kind of do it wherever. But can you talk about screen printing and just how sort of almost revolutionary it was?
Yeah, people need to know. Like this is 1996, 1997. I took a silk screening class to learn how to silk screen on paper, like art, right? Like canvases. And I brought in T-shirts, and I started silk screening on T-shirts, and the teacher was like, "Oh no, you can't do that." And I was like, "Why? What difference does it make?" I thought T-shirts cooler because I can give these to my friends now, whereas I can't give my friends like a canvas, Right. Like we don't have apartment walls to put art up, but T-shirts is cool. Yeah. And she was just like, "You just can't do it in this class." And I was like, "Man, that's BS." So I subsequently then broke into the silkscreen lab at night. I would leave a window unlocked and then crawl in through the windows of my silkscreen lab to then at night after hours print on T-shirts all night long. So that's how the brand really started. And then I started giving them to friends only. And then I wasn't even really trying to start a fashion label. I walked into a boutique in Soho in New York City, and the manager was like, "Oh, that's a cool shirt. Where'd you get that?" And I was like, "Oh, I made this at school." And he's like, "Wow, it's really cool. If you want, let's make a dozen and we'll put them in the shop." And that was like the first order for my brand. And I had to break back into school, like make not 12. I had to make like 25 shirts to get 12 perfect ones.
And you brought your own paints, right? You weren't like using the paints.
Yeah, I brought my own paint, brought my own
noted
shirts.
That in your book. I was like, that's great.
Yes. Yeah. And then business was open. It was like the first order I ever got for 12 T-shirts.
That's
at
amazing.
$12 each.
That's so cool. 555 Soul in New York. I guess I want to pause right there because I feel like a lot of people who listen to this podcast are creatives who are passionate about something. But being in the entertainment industry or media or whatever, you do have to kind of add a little business to that. If you want to do that art as your career, you have to kind of meld your passion with business. What was it like to transition from like something you were just passionate about, which was art, design, printing on a shirt, but then, oh snap, it's a business now?
Yeah.
What was the early days like?
I did not learn that lesson for at least another 5 years. I wasn't operating it like a business, for better or for worse. And I say that because I think it was good that I had that naivete to just do it. Maybe if I overanalyzed like the business plan or the P&L, I would have scared myself out of it. So there's a certain just, again, like obliviousness of just like, yeah, let's freaking try to do this, And to me, and I think people in Hollywood will appreciate this, like it was a new distribution channel, right? Like it's a store in Soho, but that's all it is. But from me giving out shirts to friends at school to now, there will be a store in Soho sharing my stuff like 24/7 was like really, really exciting to me, And it was soon after another store in Soho picked it up, and then another store. And then before I knew it, I said in my book, like a store in Japan would call soon, like within months, right? So that like I didn't think of it as like, wow, this is big business. I thought of it as like almost like a graffiti artist. Like I'm getting my art more up in certain surfaces.
I mean, I wanted to, because I love what you say in the book about this. I guess for context for the young folks, this is pre-social media. So you basically, this is like marketing.
This is pre-internet.
Pre-internet, there you go.
Literally pre.
But I like what you talk about. You write about the power of the t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I'll just read a little bit of this. So you said, people in urban cities and what they wear are exposed to thousands of eyeballs every day. To me, the power of the t-shirt in particular is incredible. If you can get 100 people to wear a t-shirt you made, that is arguably more powerful than a billboard in Times Square. And then you say it's much more guerrilla and punk, if you will, because it's like infiltrating. Do you still feel like a t-shirt has power today?
Just 100,000%.
And why?
For the reasons I said, but like there's nothing really so democratic where anybody can make a t-shirt, especially today. You could literally just go on a website and you can make a shirt tomorrow. And then you wear it, you give it to another friend. Also the multiplying, compounding effect of like 12 of your friends wearing a shirt out in the world, like that, the number of eyeballs, as I said, for what, like $10 to make a shirt, you know? Now you could do the thing in Canvas and then like go to Zazzle or Cafe Press and just make a shirt, right? It's so easy, so much easier today. It's a really powerful medium. And I think just fashion and sneakers, all of this is like, all of us in this room made a decision before they left the house, right? Like he's wearing a blank white pocket tee, but he chose not to wear the tee with the graphic on it. He chose to wear the blank tee. So even if you're blank, you're making a statement about who you are, you know? You almost can't avoid it. I recently was talking to a young artist friend, like a painter, and she was like sort of stuck in a crossroads recently. And she was asking me for advice. And I told her, let me give you some homework. I said, the next time we meet, and it's going to be like in 2 weeks, I want you to make a t-shirt. You can do it like from your phone right now. And by next time we meet, I want you to give me the t-shirt, right? And she like kind of didn't understand why. And then we met again, and then she made the shirt, she made the art, she brought the shirt, and then she gave it to me, and I was like, this is so dope. And I was like, how do you feel? And she's like, powerful. For some reason, putting something from here to this, to a shirt, to then wearing it, and then having other people wear it and seeing other people wear it is such a powerful thing, you know? And I wonder what, like, what's the equivalent of that in filmmaking? It's like, I guess it's making a thing from your brain and having somebody else watch it on screen is like, yeah, you want to see the thing on screen, but I also want to see your reaction to it, you know? So it's kind of like that weird dichotomy as well. Like, it's so cool. Like to this day, if I see a stranger wearing Staple, like my jaw kind of drops. I'm just like you bought that? That's awesome.
That's interesting you bring that up, because when I first moved to LA, this is maybe a tangent, but I started getting into just local LA designers like Hells Bells and like other artists, and like
shout out Lonnie.
Who I tried to get on a podcast once a long time ago. But anyways,
do it.
Invitation's still open. But I remember once it was like some kind of street fair or something, and I was wearing a piece by a local designer. I forget the name, honestly. I don't think they're around anymore. But then the designer was there because they had like a little booth. And he had that moment, the jaw dropped looking at me because I was wearing head to toe this thing that he had made. And we had a great conversation about it. But yeah, there's something about seeing your work in the wild, but also seeing someone engage with it, I think, is as an artist is probably a meaningful thing.
Especially in streetwear in particular. Like, I don't think it happens if I'm wearing a Gap shirt and you're wearing a Gap shirt, you know, like you don't.
Although Gap's doing pretty well.
Gap's
right
can
now,
make it a comeback.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think streetwear is much more tribal in that way. Like if you know kind of thing. So like if I'm on like a plane and I see somebody wearing a streetwear brand, we can almost give like a head nod to each other of like, oh, you get it. You're in the clan. You know what I mean?
When you were coming up, streetwear was really, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And even sneaker culture was still sort of in its early days.
Yep,
now it's
sure.
like every brand, even luxury brands, have their own sneakers. Is it still like a cool thing? Is streetwear still cool? Is it still, if you know, you know? And how do you feel about it?
It has definitely grown to proportions that I would have never imagined. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? There's like toilet paper and yogurt brands are doing collaborations and drops now, you know, like it's so weird. So on the one hand, I'm really proud of like being in the culture from the ground floor and seeing where it is today, and still being active in it. On the other hand, to your point, is it anti-establishment anymore? Is it like, you know, screw the man, you know, like they are the man now. Like we are the man because we're so big now. So is streetwear still relevant and important? I do think the category is. I often say that if I understand your brand, your streetwear brand, and if I'm a fan of it, you're probably doing something wrong to be actual. Because like I'm 50. So like I should look at your brand and be like, oh, I hate it and I don't get it. Then you're doing something right because I'm old now. And like this streetwear is a young man's game, you know, and I think I can offer wisdom and experience and like guide young designers to like, you know, excel, but like I shouldn't be the one pushing the envelope on what real streetwear means anymore, you know. I just don't want to be that guy. Like I don't want to be like that old guy in a nightclub being like, "Hey kids, let's hang out," you know. Like
it's like that Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
With your skateboard and your backwards hat.
Yeah, but here's the thing: I do look at brands that are coming up, and I look at them and I'm like, the fuck, like what? But I understand that this is dope. Like what they're doing, I don't get, but that's good. You know, like,
Well, talk about your brand then, Staple. First of all, I love the story of how the name came to be.
Growing up, I was a big like hip hop head, right? Loved hip hop music, but more of like the conscious intellectual. The term was backpacker hip hop, you know, like I was really into that. And then, but at the same time, you had like the Puffy, Biggie, Wu-Tang, Cam, you know, like the glitzy version of hip hop, right? And
I like how you describe it in the book because it's like there's the private jets, champagne, that kind of hip hop, and then there's like the 4 pillars
of hip hop. Yeah, like DJing, MCing, breakdancing, and graffiti, right? And so if you think about from a brand standpoint, you had brands like Sean John, Rockaware, Pelle Pelle, right? That represented that glitzy side of hip hop, but there was no fashion brands that were representing the true elements of hip hop, like the undeniable things that hip hop as a culture couldn't live without, right? And so going back to that story of when I sold those 12 shirts at 555 Soul, I didn't have a brand name. And he was like, "What's the brand name?" And I was like, "Let me think about it and let you know." And so I kind of had to come up with something pretty quick. And I was like, you know, I wanted to come up with something that was not trendy and would be like cringy after a week, you know, like I wanted something generational that like, man, maybe my grandkids could like rock this brand too, you know? So I thought of this idea of staple, which is by definition, like a raw essential element that you can't live without, right? Like, so like rice is like a staple food for Asians, for example. And so I thought of that because it related to hip hop culture because I was trying to remove the glitz and just have the basic essentials of what hip hop would be without all of that, the staple elements of hip hop.
Awesome.
And of just everything, you know, whether it's design or whatever. Like I remember in that era, Photoshop filters had just come out. So you could do Gaussian blur and radial blur and all that stuff. But true graphic designers were like, can you design something great without Photoshop filters? So that's also kind of like the same thing of like, basic necessities. Can you do it without like the glitz, right? So I was really intrigued by that. So yeah, I called it Staple, and it stuck. And then I remember the guy called me, "Thanks. Okay, cool. Jeff Staple, right?" I'm like, "Oh no, it's not my last name." It's like, you know, but that nickname just stuck, and so like now I'm Jeff Staple.
So why the pigeon? Why did the pigeon become your mascot? Or Staple?
Yeah, so I wanted an animal to represent the brand because I grew up under the school of Ralph Lauren and Lacoste and even like Marc Ecko. I don't know if you remember that brand, but he had a rhinoceros as a brand logo. Yeah. And so there's something about an animal that just, you know, supersedes all language, you know, borders. Everyone, even if you don't speak English, you could be like, "Oh, horse," you know, like alligator, right? So I wanted an animal. And just growing up in New York City, man, like hustling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know, oftentimes I'd be out working till like 3, 4 a.m. Pigeons would always be out. They outside 24/7 trying to eat. And when I was going home at like 3, 4 a.m., I'd be like, yeah, I'm trying to eat like these birds are trying to eat.
Yeah.
And there was also a thing about like people hating pigeons and people hating what I was trying to do. Like my parents, you know, here I am. I dropped out of art school now and journalism school, trying to start a t-shirt brand. My girlfriend at the time was like, when are you going to get a real job? My grandparents, everybody was just like hating on this, waiting for me to get over this like period of my life.
Yeah.
Like, what, he's going to get over this t-shirt sneaker thing and he'll button up one day, you know? And so like, I was in my heart of hearts, I was like, nah, this feels really right to me and really real. But if you really think about before streetwear became streetwear, for a kid to drop out of school, try to sling t-shirts and like paint on sneakers is like wild activity. That's like, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing with your life, you know?
Yeah. And this is early 2000s?
Late 90s.
Late 90s.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. 96, 97.
Yeah.
So I just felt like hated on, but also firmly believing in what I was doing. And the pigeon just represented that kind of grit for me.
Yeah.
And so even when I said like, I'm going to use the pigeon as my logo, I remember the few people that I had working for me were like, what? Everyone hates this bird. Like nobody wants pigeons. Why would they wear this brand, you know?
Yeah, it's very New York. It's very city. And the rat was taken by apparently Walt Disney. I'm kidding. And you put pigeon poop on some of your designs? Is that true?
Yeah, pigeon poop. Yep. I brought some stuff that has pigeon poop on it as well. That's our sort of mark of authenticity.
That's great.
Like when we put little hidden pigeon poop splatter on
stuff.
stuff.
That's awesome. So the counterfeit ones can't do that.
Well, I have pigeon poop trademarked as well.
Oh, like
legit.
The actual design?
Like I have a U.S. Patent and Trademark Office document that has pigeon splat in the middle of it. And
incredible.
I own it. So it's
incredible.
Yes. Even Walt didn't think of rat poop.
No, he didn't. No, he did. He did not. I think one of the first celebrities or names that you worked with was formerly Mos Def, now Yasiin Bey. Can you talk about how that came about? Yeah.
So when I was coming up in New York, at the same time that I was starting Staple, I was doing a bunch of freelance gigs for design, right? Yeah. And it came because Staple, like I said, was being sold in cool boutiques downtown. And so people would ask like, yo, who designed these shirts? And they'd be like, oh, this Cat Jeff. Oh, wow, I need my album cover design or my party flyer design or my magazine design. So I was getting a lot of work that way. Cool. And that has spun off to today where I have a creative agency called Read Art Department that is handling all of that client-facing work, right?
But back then it was just word of mouth.
Yeah.
You'd be like, just Staple, just Staple.
So there was a record label called Prox Recs, which signed Mos Def, along with Talib Kweli and Black Star. They signed Common, they signed this group called Company Flow, which had a leader named LP who is now doing Run the Jewels. I mean, they were one of the first times Eminem appeared on a record, like one of the first times on a Raucous record from DJ Spinna. Wow. So they were like an underground record label that was just doing really important music in that sort of independent backpack hip hop philosophy that we were just talking about. And so Mos, I'll call him Mos because it was Mos past tense, but it's Yasiin Bey now. Mos was just always around the office and I was starting this brand, you know. And he wasn't who he is now. He was like an up and coming MC. And so one day we happened to be in the elevator together. It's funny. It's like classic elevator pitch, right? I was like, okay, we're on the 8th floor. I have until the lobby to tell him about this brand that I'm doing. So 8 floors, ding, ding. And I'm like, so I'm doing this thing. I'm doing t-shirts. I'm doing jackets, man. I'm doing hats. I would love to get you some. And he's like, yeah, bring it by the office. So brought it by the office. And then I was like, yo, I gave him a care package and I was like, if you're ever down, I'd love to shoot you in it so that like we have some images that we both have. And he's like, yeah, let's do it in the elevator since that's where you told me about Staple.
Genius.
Yeah, genius of Mos, right? Yeah. So we went in the elevator and did the shoot. So the images that are in the book are in the Raucous Records elevator.
So cool.
And I wasn't like reaching out to Mos's like management team and figuring out the scope of work and the delivery. It was like we were both coming up. You know, like we both didn't really know what this meant. And it was, I would like to think like mutually beneficial. It was fun. We both got something out of it. And just recently, like I did a conference and a pop-up shop in Dubai and Yasiin was the headline performer. And, you know, we saw each other and gave each other a big hug because we knew like, man, 20 years later, look at us now, like in Dubai doing this thing with pop-up stores and headlining a 10,000, you know, person festival. like it's so cool because I think we inherently remember the elevator moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I love how you had your elevator pitch like ready to go. But was it like, hey, I'm doing this brand, and then your ask at the end was, can we take some photos?
Yeah. I don't remember the exact elevator pitch, but I do think it is very important for creatives in any profession to be able to articulate what they do. You know, like you can be dope at what you do, but if you're like just in the corner mumbling about it, like you're putting yourself behind an 8 ball that you don't need. If you just can say what it is that you do, and that's easier said than done. And probably the journalism part of my education helped with being able to like talk about, here's a journalism trick, right? One, when you start an article, who, what, when, where, why, how. Answer those questions and you have essentially an article. So if you're talking about your brand or your film or your photo project, who, what, when, where, how, why, how, like answer those questions, tell it in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're like ahead of 51% of the competition.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's like starting with the lead. Don't bury the lead. Like start with like the most important thing about your brand or your story or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like hearing about like how you pitched in the elevator, but also just organic collaboration, which I feel like in the 90s and early 2000s, that feels like that's when that was really so possible.
Yeah.
Now it's like, it's corporate, Instagram, go through the manager, the publicist, or whatever. I mean,
Instagram has a collaboration feature.
I know
now.
that too. Yeah, but then to get to that, you have to like go through the reps oftentimes.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just DM or like whatever.
Right.
Some people do.
Yeah.
But I guess what's your advice for creatives coming up in this landscape who want to do kind of what you were doing back then?
Yeah.
Is it finding the people they're coming up with and collaborating with them, or like how can they tap into like the next Yasiin Bey?
I think it's both, right? Now collaborations is part of a marketing rollout plan for in any industry, not just fashion, right? Film, books, whatever, you got to collab with somebody. So I think there is still going to be a structured format where collaboration shows up on like a PowerPoint presentation. It's like, in March, we need to do a collaboration drop, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, fine, we'll do that. And that is going to go through managers, and there's going to be lawyers involved. There's going to be scope of work, deliverables, fees.
Yeah. I'm not cringing at scope of work and deliverables. What?
Right? IP usage, all this stuff, right? And let it happen. It's going to happen. But I think if you are a creator, save room in your brain for that, like, let's just grab coffee and dinner and let's just talk, and see if we vibe. The vibe check collab versus like the scope of work deliverable collab. I think you need both. And in some ways, one fuels the other. The organic one gets you more of the structured one. It doesn't really work the other way, I don't think. I think you actually kind of have to be careful about the overly structured collaborations. Yeah. Because they're not that cool. No. Frankly, they're not all that cool, especially now. They're just really oversaturated. Yeah. So I really try to, it drives my team crazy, by the way, because I'm like out here skunk working collabs on the side, and then I'm just like, hey, next week we're doing this thing with this artist. They're like, wait, what? Yeah. And I understand when you get bigger and you have like a team, for example, the poor e-com guy has to have nice photos of the thing that you're collabing on to put it on the e-commerce site, and he has to load it up in the Shopify and stuff. I can't just be like, here, let's go live. Like, what? Like, no, I need to do this. So I'm like, oh yeah, there is a structure here, So like, got to figure that part out.
And also there's just so many more, I guess, channels and platforms to be on. Back then, you guys took pictures in an elevator that went to like a magazine or something, or a poster.
We went to Kinko's and made a postcard.
There you go. Whereas now it's
I
like
need 916, 3, 3
by 4, 1920 by 1080.
Yeah, exactly. Wait,
4K.
Where's the 15-second cut down of this?
This is too real. We're making a podcast. We do this for the podcast.
Seriously. Well, now you got the 15-second, but no, you need the first 3-second hook to be like,
That's a whole other. That's a whole other. But I guess like going back to that though, like how do you stay connected to the creative? Because you do have to think about all this stuff, the marketing, the rollout, all of that. How do you stay connected to the creative of what you do?
For me personally, I do find that because I know the darkness that is behind the curtain of how things get made, I have to pump the brakes a lot when I'm talking to a true artist, because all that other stuff structure, the process, the compliance and all that stuff is like kryptonite to a true artist. Like they don't want to deal with any of that stuff. And I know, because of how long I've been in this industry, that we're going to get there. If we do something, there will be a contract, there will be lawyers. But if I start that way, it'll just kill the whole vibe, right? So I find myself mentally pumping the brakes to allow for the creative zhuzh to occur. And the longer that I can let that marinate, the better the final outcome will be, you know? And I love talking to other creatives and other professions. Like I love talking to chefs. I love talking to comedians, musicians for sure, because these other industries they all have different incubation periods of the creative process before you get into like the mechanicals of it, you know? And I love seeing that because I feel like the more I can absorb, this is secretly why I did a podcast, to be honest, is so I can like learn the creative process in every industry. But like if I can observe how it works in all these different industries, and I feel like I could make myself a better creative.
You talk about hustle culture, and it sounds like especially the early days, it was all about hustling. And I feel like hustling and hustle culture is honestly ingrained in streetwear culture in a way, like even the selling shirts on the street kind of thing. There's like a positive side to that. And then there's like a negative side to that where like, you know, you can crash and burn. Did that ever happen to you? Like burnout or anything like that? And how did you get through it?
I did not burn out, but I recognize now that hustle culture can be very dangerous. You know, health is wealth, obviously. It's the number one thing, because if you're not healthy, mentally and physically well, you can't out hustle that. Like you will get sick and crash and burn out, you know? But that's something I think I wouldn't have done it any other way, I guess is what I'm saying. Like when you're 20 and 30, you should be grinding and hustling out there because you have the parachute of youth to recover from all of that stuff, right? And recently I was in New York and we were just, you know, bagging on New York off camera. But like I was in New York and I was out at this amazing venue that I can't say because it's like secret and shit and it's underground. And I was out till like 3 a.m. listening to like this incredible music and having this like ethereal moment. And I used to have that every weekend in New York, or weekday, like Mondays, whatever, right? I would do that in New York all the time. And that fueled the creativity to where I could put it back out into the world.
So this time
I did it and it felt really good to like re-energize myself. But I paid for it like 5 days later. I was still like, you know, like still feeling hungover. It. Yeah. And like, but you know, when you're younger, you could just bounce back the next day and just operate. But I'm telling you, you can't keep doing that, you know? So either what I learned is you're either going to learn it because you're forced to, because your body just like smacks you across the face, or you're going to learn it and be proactive about it and try to avoid it. So I never had like the proverbial breakdown or like, you know, burnout. I think it was like when I turned 40 that I was like, I just know I can't keep doing this. So I should probably proactively figure out a way to now balance, you know, work-life schedules and like try to take time for myself. And now a lot of people don't know this about me because I've never asked about it, but I am extremely, extremely proactive about how I take care of myself now. And I think that's made my work better. It's made my output better, you know, because I can like function in the day versus just being like cloudy the entire time. Yeah.
And when you say take care of yourself, is it like exercise, food, sleep? Is it those basic things, or are there other things you're doing?
Those basic things. I think sleep is an undeniable number one. Hydration. You guys should Google circadian rhythm. Like things like that are like very, very important that like you just can't hack your way out of it. You know, like the piper will come calling if you keep avoiding it for too long.
Come to the part of the show where you talk a little bit about your work through some items that you've brought in.
So this is the OG Pigeon Dunk, as it's called, one of the, I guess, holy grails of sneaker culture, but not my first Nike, as I said. But this is the one that sort of caused riots in New York when I released them. February 22nd, 2005.
Yes. So yeah, why? So there was a line around the block.
Yeah.
You guys had, was it 150 pairs or something? Why was there a riot?
I think the police came and they did their thing, and then some unsavory people came and like they did their thing, and then you had kids waiting in line for 5 days through like a blizzard. So there was a lot of just tension and agitation bottled up into kind of like a Roman candle of a moment, you know, and it just exploded. And so there was a riot. And what
was it like to be the guy who made the shoe that kind of started it all? The riot anyway.
I was scared shitless then because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get shut down. I'm going to get arrested. I'm going to get fined, you know? So I was really, really scared. But it was part of the mythological story of this, whereas because of the riot, the police came. Because the police were there, the newspapers and all the news channels came.
Picked it up,
So it was on the nightly news. It was then on the front page of the New York Post the next day. And that's what really like mythologized this whole drop. And so now like a mint condition pair of this goes for like 80 to 100,000 US dollars for like a good condition one. And even if you found a collector, they probably won't even give it up for $100,000 to be honest. So this was like really the thing that helped set sneaker culture and my brand on the global map overnight.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. But this is a very special version.
This is a very special one. It's a prototype, and I'll just flash it really quick, but like this is just, you know, heads who know will like freak out right now, but it is what it is. It's just like we tinker all the time. So there's always stuff in the office that's like, you know, it's like the director's cut that never made it. And so like people won't see it, but like it's just cool that we have these like weird prototypes here.
That's
you know?
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then we came back and we did a few years later the black Pigeon Dunk, which is this one here. So we did an all black version. And it's water resistant. It's really clean. It was almost like a reset, if you will. So this one was wildly popular. We did many more pairs of this. So this one's much more accessible from a price point. Like this might be like aftermarket prices like $500-ish. And then after that, we did this one called the Panda Pigeon Dunk. So you could see I've started to create kind of like a recurring legacy theme with the Pigeon series where like there's always this pigeon and then there's always the story around it. Actually, this one's cool because I wanted to do a shoe that kind of gives back to my motherland. So being a panda, me being Chinese, I also wanted this shoe released first in China and last in New York. So it kind of does full circle. Usually, ironically, the Chinese sneakerhead community gets it last, even though they're made there, which is kind of weird. Like they make them there, they send them to New York, and then they send them back to China for sale, you know? So I was like, yo, let's do the drop first in China.
Sick.
They really love the idea. And Nike's very amendable in terms of like doing kind of like off the cuff stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
The other cool thing about this is like, this is a little bit worn, but like if you look at the outsole of this is snippets from the headline of that riot underneath.
I recognize it.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. And then also if you notice the swoosh on the outside's white, but the swoosh on the inside is gray. It's the gray from the original Pigeon Dunk.
Gray colorway.
So there's a lot of little cues like that that people love. And then it was great that we've been able to also extend beyond Nike into other brands. Like this is a Reebok Pump. This is actually the shoe that Michael Chang wore, you know, the Reebok Pump series. And then we pigeonified it with this like crazy pigeon feathering going on. And then you've got the pigeon up here on the Reebok Pump logo, the pigeon back there. And then now we've started to work with Brooks, which is actually the #1 performance running brand in America is Brooks, but they've never dabbled in street culture or like sneaker culture. So we're the first brand that actually gets to play in their archive. So this shoe came out originally in 2002. Wow. We re-released it last year, and it's like the first time that Brooks has ever done anything like retro.
That's cool. Why'd you pick this one?
I just thought it was the time, like it's on trend, even though it's like a 25-year-old shoe. It's just like it's ready to come back out. So a lot of times sneaker designers are like wine aficionados. Like, when is the right time to break this bottle open? You know, like, because think about it, they have like thousands of designs in their archive, but like identifying which one is right and then what you can do to it to modernize it, because it didn't look like this at all. We completely changed it. Yeah. So this came out and it really put Brooks on the map from a lifestyle standpoint. And then now we've got these dropping next. It's the same shoe, but done in a different rendition.
Dope.
But this comes out Black Friday of this year.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's fun. It's great. I mean, like I was telling you before, like I have like over 3,000 pairs of shoes in my collection. So I'm a bona fide hardcore sneakerhead, but to have it be part of my job is so much fun to be able to do that. You like play around with brands that I never would have thought I'd be in meeting rooms with, you know, and being able to create my own product with these brands is a blessing.
That's so cool. I love the pigeon feathers. I was like, is that shoe kind of like messed up? What's going on with it? But no, I love the details that you put into it. And I think any creative person knows like it's all in the details.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when you go into like, when you have a fresh canvas for something, whether it's album art or a shoe or whatever it is, like what are the sorts of things that you, I don't know, do you have like a checklist of things that you think about in designing and having these cool little details that people are like, oh yeah, he thought of that. That's so cool.
Not really a checklist. I think of it more like a weatherman, actually. So because we're street culture, it's important that what I design makes sense for people on the streets, like actual people that walk around shopping malls, streets of your downtown city, right? Versus like a runway show in Paris. Like that's not street culture, that's couture, right? And couture plays a different role because I think couture is very like costumey and envelope pushing and almost like trying to push the envelope of what fashion means, right? Like, could you have 4 armholes and like, you know, all these things and like you can't wear it on an everyday basis, but that's not really who I'm aspiring to be wearing my brand and my creations. You know, I want like just regular folks who are just in these streets every day. And so it's important for me to be a good designer to kind of take a litmus test or like a weather forecast of what's going on in Harajuku and Paris and London and Fairfax and in, you know, Soho, New York, like what is going on in the streets so that I can sort of like take a sampling of all of that. And then when I create, I'm creating for me because I'm in these streets, but also them, you know, and adding my nuance to it. So it's not really a checklist. It's more like a weather forecast of what's going on, you know? And then the other difficult part about that is like when I talked about releasing this Brooks, like we started working on that 2 years ago.
Wow.
Because it takes that long to make a shoe. So now I have to think like, okay, here's the weather today. Now, what will be the weather in 2027?
What's the forecast in 2 years?
Yeah, yeah. And then trying to like intercept and like make that happen is always a challenge.
How do you stay on trend or like not even on trend? How do you forecast the trend? Like how do you, and you, not to call you out, you said, you know, you're 50 now. So like, how do you stay, because streetwear was youth culture too, right? How do you stay connected to that while, you know, making something different and fresh and something for yourself? Yeah.
Travel is a big one for me. Like I like to go to the places versus like seeing it on Instagram or TikTok.
IRL.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important to just like sit at a cafe in a corner and just people watch, you know. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I almost feel bad when creatives become so big that they can't incognito just sit there and observe people. Because then like when you become so famous and big that like people are serving you the moment, that's like a terrible place to be honest. Like you can't walk into a store and just like, I just want to look and observe. Everyone's like, oh, here's our latest this. Would you like this? We'll send this to your hotel. Like, no. I literally just want to observe what's going on. You know, so like, I don't know if you have to wear a mask or what needs to happen at that point.
Before this, we had sort of a early chat. You talked about sort of like 2 ways sort of a career can go. And correct me if I'm wrong, you were like, there's Jay-Z way where you can build this whole sort of business. Like maybe you start underground, but you build a business, flywheel, so to speak, of different businesses. But then there's also like the more, like the artist way where like Andre 3000, Yasiin Bey, who they get big, but then they kind of shun the spotlight. I guess where are you in that sort of framework?
I think the Jay-Z, Andre 3000 or Mos Def analogy works in, you could talk about it in publishing, writing, filmmaking, right? Photography, anything. There's like another way of saying it that the kids used to say was like the sellout, right? Versus like keeping it real. I don't think kids use sellout anymore. I don't think there's no such thing anymore now.
I think kids are brands now. So
I know, like everything's a paid post. Hashtag sponsored.
collab, sponsor, everything.
Where do I sit? I mean, I think I'm like quite structured. I'm probably leaning towards the Jay-Z side because I am a believer that the bigger your scale is, the more people see your stuff and the greater the change you can make. You know, so a great example is maybe like Jay-Z being able to dictate what we see at the Super Bowl halftime show, right? Like if you, like, I think Mos Def is like a top 3 MC of all time, but he can't say who I'm going to see at the Super Bowl, right? That takes a level of infrastructure, flywheel effect, and like, you know, corporatization, probably some code switching, probably a little bit of selling out here and there. But if you can get into that room that decides Kendrick's going to be the halftime show, not a country singer this year, like that means a lot to a lot of people, right? Yeah. So love it or hate his music, he was able to do that. And I want to make those kind of changes, you know, although a part of me still loves the art side of it. And that's where, you know, even when Jay-Z still puts out, I think his last album was 444, like even when he puts out an album, it's still like, you could see that he's still the artisan. And so when I do something like a shoe or like, you know, we just did this album with Robert Glasper, who's an amazing jazz pianist on Blue Note, like, you know, it shows that I can still do the art, but like I can still operate in the corner office as well when needed to.
I mean, this is sort of the example of that. It's the art and business of what you do.
Yeah, there's a lot of artists that are invited to these corporate headquarters and say, we want to do something with you. And they do something where they're like, oh, this is too scary for us. Like, we're not going to do it. So on the one hand, you could say, that's dope. The artist held their ground and held their moral compass, and they like walked away from that check. Yes, bravo. But you could have had 50,000 pieces of your art in malls across America where like a 13-year-old who didn't know about you is now exposed to your art. Like that's dope too. Yeah. So it's kind of like, which way do you want it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's to each his own. I think there's no wrong answer. Prox Recs.
We close out the show with a Prox Rec, which is where our guest recommends something for the audience. Do you have a recommendation?
I want to say something that has nothing to do with what I do.
Which is great.
Sourdough bread.
Okay. Because?
I've been obsessed with sourdough bread recently.
You can make, I've tried during the pandemic. I suck at it.
I think the message here is that creatives should obsess over things, right? And if you pick something that is like just seemingly meaningless, like bread, but then like you OCD over the nuances and the details of that thing. It could be sneakers, it could be watches, it could be fine art, right? It could be music, but like I like when you really nerd out on something innocuous like that, like bread, you know, and like I'll buy like 3 sourdough breads from local bakeries, and I'll like cut a slice and just sit there and like taste the 3 different things and understand. I'll toast it for a minute and a half, and then I'll toast it for 2 minutes, and I'll see the difference. What the fuck does that have to do with what I do? Nothing. But I think it does intrinsically help when I'm like designing an album cover or like creating a shoe, that like the detail is like really important. You know, like Steve Jobs had this great quote where like a great carpenter cares about the back of the cabinet, the side that never gets seen. But like, if you turn it around, it's a great carpenter makes it just as beautiful as the front side, you know? And some creators could be like, who gives an F? Like, no one's going to see it. It's up against the wall. But then another one is going to be like, no, every detail is taken care of, you know? And that's what I try to do in all of my work, is like kind of have that care. So I think actually you talk about burnout. I think obsessing within your field can cause burnout. Like if I just bought typography books and sneaker books and looked at Vogue and Business of Fashion all day long, I'd like gag on the industry, right? But it's important for me to like eject and be like, oh wow, like cool, bread, interesting. And then
or make an album.
Yeah, or make an album, you know? Like I think you could take learnings from that and apply it to your world much more meaningfully than like sort of being in that vacuum of like your own industry.
Dope. Yeah, well, thank you, Jeff, for being on the show.
Thank you. This is amazing.
In Proximity is a production of Proximity Media. The show is hosted, directed, and produced by Paula Mardo. Executive producers are Ryan Kugler, Zinzi Kugler, and Sev Ohanian. Theme song and additional music by Ludwig Göransson. Patrick Apino is our co-director and director of photography. Ken Nana is our sound designer and mix engineer. The production team includes Brittany Brown, Isabella Miller, and Alexandria Santana. Follow us on social media at Proximity Media. For transcripts and more information, head to proximitymedia.com.